Good morning, class. It's been about 10 seconds here, and we're still all green, so we'll get started. Thank you for joining us again for another episode of Talkin'ronpa, special presentation for Sound Goblin Storytime, where we discuss the Danganronpa 3 animated series. Now we are, last time around, we discussed the first two episodes of Future Arc and Despair Arc. This time around will be Future Arc and Despair Arc episodes 3 and 4. I am, as always, your host, Bograt.
I am the Krampus.
I'm Shiv.
I'm Hunter Green.
And I'm Vincent.
And we will get rolling here with Future Arc Episode 3. So the episode opens on the last thing we saw at the end of Future Arc Episode 2, Asahina's dead body with a knife still buried deeply in her gut. Everyone is, of course, very shocked that this has happened in the room that they had sealed themselves in. Just kidding, it's a fake knife. Everyone's perfectly fine.
Yes.
Oh. Great Gozu has been killed, and his body strung up by cables from the ceiling. So again, there's still a lot of concern here, because this did happen in a room they were all sealed inside of. You know, barricaded the doors and everything, and it doesn't look like anybody had moved any of the stuff. So, they're all pretty shocked.
Killed Great Gozu and then staged Asahina to look like she had also died.
Yeah,
It's tomato sauce.
I'm not really entirely sure what the purpose of the Asahina fake-out was, honestly. Like, I get it from a meta standpoint of, like, it's to, you know, throw off the viewers, but
yeah,
like
it's supposed
in
to be like
universe,
a gut punch going from episode 2 to 3, but
In fairness, we're talking about either Junko or Junko adjacent people. To fuck with people is the short answer.
I mean, fair enough, but it is still very much a matter of, like, it's going to last like 2 seconds.
it's like solely for a end of episode 2, like, oh shit. And then episode 3 is like, nothing's fine.
Oh, I'm well aware what it's for from a writing perspective. As far as trying to justify why they would do that, it makes them laugh. I mean,
It would work better as like an end episode stinger if it was like going from one season to another, so you had time to marinate on it. But it's literally an episode later, and then it's like, oh, no, it's fine, whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that would be a week in between it and actual airing.
That's true. We'll be a
also-
week next year, but
yeah, it's also technically like 2 episodes in watch order, so you have an entire kind of episode of Despair Arc if you're watching them that way.
Well, yeah, but
Yeah.
the other thing about that, though, is that even with the 2 episodes, it was still only a single week, because this anime did air 2 episodes a week, one on Mondays and one on Thursdays.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a thing there. That being said, we go immediately from this scene here with Great Gozu hanging up into the intro. Krampus actually asked me to grab a few screenshots here from the opening, some of the individual character stills, in order to let him sort of talk about a theory/observation he had. So take it away, Krampus.
Yeah, so at least 4 of the screenshots the 4 of the death vignettes that we see in this opening have matched up with the death, or in this case, supposed death, of the person in question. Asahina is shown with a knife, Bandai is shown screaming, dripping, and holding his chest in his. Yukizome is shown hanging upside down and bloody, and Gozu is shown wrapped up in chains. So my theory is that all of the death vignettes that are shown in the opening are clues to how this person is either going to die, or how they're going to, or stuff that's going to happen to them during the actual future arc. The one technical outlier I will talk about when it happens, because it happens in these future arcs that we watched this time. But I don't think that outlier inherently disqualifies the theory.
it's gonna be a shame when both Katana Asshole and main character boy both blow their brains out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Also, I would like to note that an interesting thing about the previous one for Chisa's is specifically where the blood is coming from. It's coming from the bracelet.
Yeah, I mean, it's bracelet/wrist. The other thing that's worth noting is she's also holding a box cutter.
Yep.
And in the background is a bunch of box cutters.
Yeah.
Which, who knows? We'll see if that has any relevance.
I mean, it's a
Yeah,
stylistic thing because like Great Guzzo wasn't tied up in chains. Also, he was
He was
bleeding
in
all over the
cables and
place,
stuff.
and he isn't
Yeah.
bleeding in that particular shot.
Yeah, I mean, we'll
It-
see. I am kind of curious, like how
How accurate they are.
how
to
much the
things that
imagery and
occur.
how much of the imagery and significance is actually like impactful. I mean, there is obviously some level of stylization, but we'll see. So anyways, we come back from the intro, and they've taken down Great Gozu's body from the cables. We get a little bit of a look at the knife that was used to kill him, which has a very clearly like Monokuma handle on it.
You actually see a couple of those knives in the opening video.
Yeah, they show up a few places in the intro. But so obviously everyone is kind of re-distressed. You know, they thought Asahina had died, then were relieved when it turned out to be fake, and then immediately swung back emotionally into like, oh my god, like this one's not a toy knife. Like Great Gozo is actually dead. Like, what the hell? So get some, exclamations of dismay and distress from the group. But we don't linger on it too long because we have to go to an incredibly important scene where we cut over to the candy girl and the long coat fetishist hanging out in a very tasteful Monokuma-themed lounge. Ruruka tries to feed Izuyoi.
The Mona Lisa.
Yeah. Yes, that is in fact the Mono Lisa. And just like there's actually like 2 of those paintings in this room of like the same exact painting, because we do get another angle on this, and it's like looking at them from the front, and like behind them is the same exact painting. So
I only commissioned one and made a bunch of prints.
Yeah, Monokuma has a very limited art palette apparently.
No, as we've kind of established, Monokuma almost always does everything about half-ass.
Yeah. So Ruruka tries to feed a sweet to Izuyoi, which we've seen, a couple times throughout the series so far, and Izuyoi refuses. This is literally the entire extent of this scene. Nothing else happens. They're just like chilling out on a couch, and she tries to feed him, and he's like, not right now.
Hey, man, they have to fill 23 minutes for this anime. And they had 21 minutes of writing. That's the best I could figure, at least.
Yeah, I mean,
Establishing character bonds at this point.
Yeah.
It is, but
It does matter more for the plot that we actually do get into with these 3 characters, technically, because we'll see that later.
If I'm being totally honest, just about every time they bring up character bond between these characters, I make a note of, like, I do not actually give a shit about these characters, so them trying to give them character bonds does nothing for me. The series' future arc has now officially killed off the 2 characters I actually gave a fuck about, so, other than the, like, returning characters.
Also, in relation to that... Okay, I'm done walling in your misery.
Yeah. So after this, we cut over to Kyoko, the old man, and Mitorei, who had similarly barricaded themselves in another room, but to significantly better results because nobody in there died. Kyoko seems suspicious that Tengan doesn't seem to have really been all that worried, but honestly, I kind of think he might just be old and have come to accept the specter of death constantly lurking over his shoulder. Like, dude was already old several years ago when we see him in Despair Arc. At this point, he has to be careful not to strain too hard when he rips a fart, or else he's going to give himself a massive coronary.
Also, in fairness, he's probably seen more of this shit than anyone else.
Yeah, because he was, like, in a position of, like, power at Hope's Peak when the tragedy happened and all that shit, so... he's kind of adjusted to it, probably. But, yeah, they have, like, a little bit of a discussion, kind of, but, like, we don't really see much of that right now. It's mostly just them being like, oh, we made it through the night and everything seems to be fine. And, like, Tengan is very cheery about it, and Kyoko just kind of gives him a stink eye. Speaking of stink eye, Stinky and the Lame also survived the night, and the most upstanding citizen on Earth displays some real Buffalo Bill shit here. Would you kill me? I'd kill me. I'd kill me so hard. They talk a little bit about it, actually, and we get kind of an interesting thing here, where Kyosuke says that he definitely hopes that the plan is to try and kill all of them, because there are worse things than for all of them to die. We'll get a little bit more elaboration on this in the next future arc episode. But at the moment, I think they're going off for like sort of an enigmatic and mysterious thing, but it really comes off as cocky and annoying because Kyosuke is a prick.
Most of what he does is cocky and annoying, so that really just fits into the character so far.
Yeah. I'll talk about it more, obviously, when we get to it in the next episode,
Yeah.
but I find it kind of annoying that this is presented this way just because it just kind of fades into the background of him being a colossal dickbag, because the point he makes is actually really fucking intelligent, when he's discussing the details of what he means by this, but here it just comes off as him being a fucking prick again, and so it's kind of like, for fuck's sake, man.
No, there's a logic behind his actions. It's not necessarily as completely thought out as he thinks it is, probably, but there is at least a logic there. And Sakakura is just a jackass.
Oh yeah, I mean that's going to be a constant through both arcs, and I don't think anything Sakakura ever does is going to stop us regarding him as just a piece of shit.
Oh no, but it does bear repeating.
Yeah.
He'll repeat it for you.
Yeah. So after this, we do go back to Naegi and his folks. Asahina develops an absolutely brilliant plan of catching the attacker with "leave it up to Naegi." This would feel like a cop-out if it weren't literally how everyone survived the killing school life at Hope's Peak Academy.
So we're talking about Asahina. I think even she knows she's not the sharpest knife in the drawer.
Like, I get that, but she just basically talks about, like, no, I have a plan to, like, make it through this. And Gekaga's like, what's your plan? And she's like, we leave it up to Naegi. And it's like, yeah, I mean, obviously Asahina is like, I mean, I can't really think of a real plan. But she could have, like, said, oh, well, I'm sure Kyoko will figure it out or something like that. But, like, it really just comes down to, like, literally none of them would have survived Hope's Peak Academy if it weren't for Naegi. So, like, this doesn't actually feel like that much of a passing the buck.
Pretty much. Also, my earlier thing about having to leave is taken care of.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
So at this point, Gekogahara reveals that she actually has managed to repair some of the damage from Monokuma's hacking and gain access to some of the systems in the HQ. Here we actually get the explicit confirmation of what the, that this building is actually the thing we've seen Kyosuke working on in the Despair arc. Like, it was pretty obvious before, but this is the first time that it's just, like, outright said, like, no, this was, intended to be the overseas, like, branch of Hope's Peak Academy. Because the angry times happened before they could complete the establishment of the school, it got pretty much immediately converted into the base for the Future Foundation. And they basically, like, pull up maps and, like, documents about the building itself. Naegi, still kind of going on his whole optimism kick, notices that there's like a monitor room where they can use like an intercom to sort of talk to everybody at once. I guess he's gonna convince them to, like, I don't know, have hope or something.
That's what he does.
He's gonna be
Impassioned
Naegi
speeches are kind of...
Okay, so he's going to go there, then play a game of Hangman real quickly.
Right. So they do head out, and as they're going down the hallways, Gekogahara does some sick donuts, and Naegi calls out her NG code. Turns out she's not allowed to turn right, so anytime they've been turning right, she's done 3 left turns instead.
Yeah, it's the reverse Zoolander.
Yeah.
I was going to make a comment about this, but we'll deal with that in the next episode.
Yeah.
Because my comment about it is entirely moot given the
Given what we find out.
given what finds out in the next episode.
Yeah. Gekogahara seems worried that, like, now that, like, Naegi has figured out her weakness and that he'll exploit it. So to be fair, Naegi shows her what his is. Asahina, not wanting to be left out, reveals that she will die if she is hit with a punch or kick. This, just like Naegi's, seems like a really bad kill command to be stuck with in this situation.
Like, especially because as they go over shortly after she reveals it was a punch or kick, she totally stepped up to guy who punches and kicks everyone he runs into.
Yep.
Yeah, but again,
And was basically saved because also, what's his face?
Mitorei.
Yeah, the animator basically got in his face as well and got kneed instead.
Yeah, we'll come to that in a minute, and also another thing that I'll discuss a little bit later on. I think actually next episode about why she was also probably still safe, but that's further down the line. Some sort of like sound kind of goes off down the hallway, and they effectively decide to split up with Sakakura and Asahina, essentially running a distraction so that Nagi can make it to the monitoring room. Somehow this idiotic diversion actually works. I attribute it to Gekakahara's wheelchair apparently being capable of doing about 35 miles an hour.
Does go pretty damn fast.
Between that and they're trying to distract ultimates who are not that hard to distract.
Yeah, the one thing we have definitely seen from super high school level talents is they tend to be idiots if they're not specifically dealing with their own talent. At this point, we get a little brief interlude to see how things are going with Yasuhiro outside. Everything seems to be fine.
Yep.
Giving a dance lesson.
Though something a little bit more important on that, it's unlikely we have some type of weird time skip or virtual machine thing because of this. So they may be just trying to throw us off. But this is Danganronpa series, so
yeah, no, I guess to a certain extent it could like work to establish like, no, this is not like, oh, they've actually been, trapped in there for months or whatever. It is still like the same time. Although, like you said, narratively they could be showing it back, however long ago, but I don't think they're gonna probably pull the same gimmick again of like, oh, it's actually like 2 years later than you think it is, because that was like the first and second game.
Yeah,
the only
real time frame we don't know is how long people are asleep.
Yeah,
before the killer kills someone, whatnot.
Yeah, we know that the like waking period is like 2 hours every time, but we don't know how long the actual time limit for the attacker is between sleep periods.
But given this, it's pretty clear that he's been outside not for an overly long period of time, and presumably they're not doing a weird time difference between just showing us scenes like this with him outside and everyone else being an entirely different time period.
That does bring up a weird thought that I had about the time frame, because there's X amount of time between when they were put to sleep first and when they woke up and Monokuma introduced the killing game. In that time frame, they filled the building with Monokuma monitors and put those two pictures up in the lounge room. So it does raise some weird questions about how much time they had to do that.
Yeah, there's something else that is another staple of the Danganronpa series, which I don't know if Bograt actually took a shot for that one or not.
I didn't, because I know you pointed it out, but we've honestly seen it like 10 or 15 times so far here, actually.
Have we? That's the first time I actually noticed it.
Oh, yeah, no, it's been in a lot of places as they've been going through hallways and stuff like that. What Hunter was going to point out later on, there's a pretty clear shot of it later on, but we've definitely seen it kind of in the background. We see a lot of those big bolted-on plates around.
Yeah, well, we know they sealed all the windows and exits and everything, so...
Yeah, there was definitely some work done before they woke up, but...
Yeah, I'm not making a theory or anything on it, I just think it's a little weird time scale-y wise.
It's worthwhile to keep in mind. This is
that's what I'm trying to get at.
This is one of the few things I do know about Danganronpa 3, so I'm not going to go too much into it. But yeah, definitely keep that thought in mind as we progress through the series. So back inside, Kyoko's being fairly pragmatic again. She basically says the longer the game goes on and the more people that die, the easier it'll be to figure out who the attacker is. Well, this is technically true. It's pretty fucked up to just say that out loud.
Kyoko.
I was gonna say, yeah.
She also points out that there's a big trust issue with all the people in the game. Are you going to get to that as well?
Yeah, we're not there yet. That's actually in a later.
I thought it was that scene where they talk about their NG codes.
Nope. She decides that she's going to head off to start investigating the death that has obviously occurred since the game didn't end. But Tengon insists that they should go together since it could be dangerous. Hold on a second. Did I not get that screen in here? Hold on a second. Fixing some stuff on the fly. I may have missed one of my screenshots.
Technical difficulties.
Oh, no, I just actually didn't manage to make that screenshot. At this point, Mitorei asks an extremely relevant question. Please imagine a screenshot here of Mitorei asking why Kyosuke would immediately move to just trying to kill Naegi. It is an extremely relevant question. However, there's a very easy answer. Because he's an asshole. And then after that little exchange is where the thing happens, where Mitorei sort of has a breakdown and says that, if what's going on in here is being broadcast to the world, they should be trusting each other and working together to solve this situation. Kyoko essentially counters this just by bluntly asking to see his NG code. Mitorei kind of freaks out and hesitates, and Kyoko explains that this is the exact situation. Because any of them could be the attacker, they can't really fully trust each other, and something like the NG codes makes it all the more evident, because revealing the NG code to the attacker would just give them an easy way to ensure your death. Just as she's explaining this, we get a cut-in from Mr. Hope himself, basically countering everything everything Kyoko just said. And because it's Naegi, of course this argument seems to make sense.
Yeah, he does a big old Hope speech and also tells everyone his NG code.
Yeah, so he actually starts off by explaining his actions in saving the remnants of despair. The thing that he was actually brought to headquarters to do in the first place. He essentially explains that even though he knew they were the remnants of despair, and each of them had caused, countless amounts of death and destruction, he couldn't help but think that they were once regular students who still would have been normal people if not for Junko and Oshima. And that was when he kind of came to the decision to use the Neo World program to try and restore them to their pre-Junko states. I argue that this argument would carry a lot more weight if Nagito didn't exist.
Yep.
Fairness.
He's pretty shitty even without the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that wasn't as well known a factor beforehand, thanks to his own ultimate luck nonsense.
Kind of. We'll touch on that in a couple Despair Arc episodes here.
Yeah.
So Naegi also basically declares that they need to believe in each other, and that's the only way they're going to make it out of here. And he essentially says fuck this game. I'm like abandoning playing by the rules of the game that Monokuma wants us to play by, and loudly announces what his NG code is. This is actually a pretty brilliant move on the part of Naegi, because it really does remove a lot of the power that the game actually has over him. Because, everybody now knows that all they
running
need to
in
do
the
is
hall.
somehow make him run in the hallways and he'll die. But at the same time, it also means that he doesn't have to be as secretive anymore. He doesn't have to try and, hide things or whatever, and really does open him up as being more trustworthy.
And quite frankly, as was kind of demonstrated in the first game, he is not going to out-physical any of the physical ultimates.
Yeah. So everyone sort of reacts to his big speech as expected. Those who know Naegi are pretty amused by it. Those who do not are surprised, and Kyosuke turns it around to, he can't know hope because he doesn't know true despair. So he can't fight despair, and only I can fight despair because Mommy said that I'm special.
Bet she has already been through one of these games.
That was a true
he
despair.
knows more despair than you know.
No, that was
period.
only despair light. Diet despair.
Despair Zero. The refreshy Zero of despair.
Not true despair.
Meanwhile, out on sort of a balcony area, Ruruka and Izuyoi are engaging in more pointless nonsense chatter when Kimura, who had originally been following Asahina and Gekogahara, but kind of lost them, wanders out onto the balcony.
He's actually been appearing... Oh, sorry.
Yeah, she's been sort of in the background of a lot of stuff. Some shit gets said. They accuse each other of being the traitor, and Ruruka says that Kimura used that weird drug to betray her. Let's put a pin in that one for now. As the war of words escalates, Kimura freaks out and downs like a whole fucking bottle of pills.
Pops all the pills.
Yeah.
I feel really bad for her stomach lining, honestly. She proceeds to sort of Hulk out and starts chasing down the other two while being watched by some kind of weird alt-universe pervert Jughead.
Yeah,
I don't. I would almost argue with that if this character
In like 30 seconds of screen time at a time. If that.
It is important to note that Kizukura knows what they're talking about, doesn't elaborate on it at all, but he knows whatever the incident is and is just amused that they haven't quote-unquote gotten over it, which says a lot about his character once we reveal what the actual incident is.
Well, yeah, we'll find out what the incident is in this, like, in a couple Despair
4.
Despair episodes. But, like, he is kind of right. Like, how are they still mad about this? They've literally been co-workers for how long now?
Yeah.
Fighting for the same side, and they're still bickering over this?
There's a bit of that and a bit of it was almost a blessing in disguise that they got expelled, so...
That's true.
Yeah.
Given what we know happens at Hopi Academy, that's not really a bad thing they got expelled. Also, apparently popping way too many pills turns you into some sort of werewolf beast.
Yeah.
It's her magical pharmacy nonsense. I'm not even going to ask.
Yeah, she literally shatters a knife in her teeth, like one of those big-ass, like, Naruto kunai knives.
Personally, I think she's just a Kataro, but...
Oh, she calls... Well...
That makes sense.
What's the current moon phase? Does she have enough calories?
I was going to say, that's exactly what those pills are for, to give calories and simulate the phase.
Yeah. So we go over back to Kyoko, Mitorei, and Tengan. Mitorei is pretty confused and asks why Naegi would reveal his NG code like that. Tengan, who actually pretty clearly gets it, says it's because Naegi believes in everyone. They're kind of heading down a hall at this point, and just as they're taking a slow moment to stop and consider Naegi and his grand stupidity, by God, JR, he's got a chair!
Chair! A chair comes flying out of nowhere and slams into the wall behind
He tries to brain Kyoko with a chair.
Also, I'm just going to say she might be Spider-Man with that spider sense.
Yeah. Sakakura...
Detective.
Yeah, it's Detective Aura. Haven't you played Batman Arkham Asylum?
No?
Point.
Sakakura shows up to start fucking things up on purpose again, this time by hurling office chairs, apparently.
I cannot get over the image of him throwing office chairs at people. It's the funniest thing. I watched this scene for like 15 times on repeat.
It is really funny, actually. Kyosuke, like a true good guy, shows up to attempt to murder Naegi right after Naegi made a big deal about how they should all work together and believe in hope. Kyosuke starts belittling Naegi, saying that he was impressive in the Killing School life game, but he succeeded only because it was a game, and real life is way harder. Like, I don't know, man. I'm pretty sure so far in my real life, nobody's gotten stabbed to death by like a million spears for beating up a stuffed animal in front of me. That seems like way harder than anything I've ever had to deal with.
Yeah. I mean, granted, their real life is like post-apocalyptic ultra-despair nonsense, but still, probably not even that bad.
I have never been placed in a murder game in my real life, so...
Yeah.
I've never had to have a trial to figure out which of my friends is responsible for killing off one of my other friends. And if I get it wrong, I die.
Meanwhile,
if you get it right, they die.
Pictured here, the face of a totally... so that's Kyosuke kind of showing up. Pictured here, the face of a totally stable man who will definitely do what's right and best for humanity.
He knows only hope.
Finding light
And
right in
true
his face.
despair.
Yeah. So this whole scene kind of boils down to a philosophical argument between Kyosuke and Naege. Kyosuke's argument is essentially, you gotta do shit, and doing shit is hard, and you can't just say things will be good and expect that to work. And Naege's counter-argument is sort of, you say things will be good even if you don't believe it, because if you keep saying it long enough, you will start believing it, and belief shapes action. I'm not really going to take a stand one way or another on this, frankly, but suffice to say that Kyosuke's argument would probably be a lot more convincing if he'd stop saying shit like, I'll kill as many people as it takes.
He has like an
I will
idea.
kill you all until there is no despair and only hope.
But yeah, I mean that's the problem with his idea.
Yeah, the
And-
floggings will continue until morale improves, only taken to an extreme.
And it's like I'm going to kill everyone who isn't part of Hope, and I'm the one who determines what Hope is.
Yeah, so we close the episode on Kyosuke charging at Naegi with his katana and declaring that too bad this wasn't a class trial.
Dun dun dun.
Yep. We then switch over to Despair episode 3. This episode opens on Hajime in a computer lab Googling expository background on Hope Speak Academy. This scene again kind of reiterates how he always wanted to go to Hope Speak Academy, but, has no real discernible talent in anything. And then that just sort of leads into the intro. Nothing super notable there, just more sort of development for Hajime. After the intro, we find ourselves in the reserve course building, which is apparently entirely populated by goo people, aside from Hajime.
They're not real characters. They
They're
don't matter.
shadow people. You know
Those
how
are the
it is.
shadows. The true self.
I'm pretty sure there's some sort of weird pervertist guy out there, like I wound up in a world where I'm the only one not made of slime. So he's sort of staring out the window across the way at the main course building and thinking on the deadline that's coming up in 7 days. It again has not yet been explicitly stated, but we already sort of know that it's the Ultimate Hope project. Just because it was brought up in Danganronpa 2. Natsumi, the Fuyuhiko's little sister, who was introduced at the tail end of the last episode, comes up to talk to him, and Hajime basically calls her out on being kind of a bitch. She responds that she shouldn't even be in the reserve course because she's the super high school level little sister, and Hajime makes the exact appropriate face in response.
She responds by being a bitch.
Her justification for this argument is that Fuyuhiko is her brother and he's the super high school level gangster, and therefore she must be a super high school level little sister because his little sister would automatically be great. She's basically determined to do whatever it takes to make it into the main course, and in doing so, sort of throws some shade at Mihiru. Mihiru's friend Sato steps in at this point to confront Natsumi about, quote, doing something weird again. We get a little bit of backstory that they were all in the photography club together at their last school. At this point, Mihiru sort of shows up to have lunch with Sato, and Natsumi tries to turn the reserve course students against her by accusing her of showing up to make fun of the talentless losers. There's like a little bit of back and forth, and Sato kind of implies that Mihiru might, tell Fuyuhiko about how Natsumi is acting, to which Natsumi responds totally normally.
Yep.
Absolutely rational way.
High school girls.
Yeah.
Well, high school girls / mafia family.
Yeah.
She is in a mafia family.
There's a little bit sort of more back and forth about how being in the main course means that you have talent, and not being scouted for the main course means you don't. All of this, to some extent, is playing into that interesting sub-theme we've talked about a bunch that the anime puts more focus on. It came up a little bit in the games, but the anime definitely talks a lot more about it, about how different it is for life between the super high school level people and average people. At this point, literally in this episode, it sort of occurred to me that it's honestly kind of a shame that we actually already know that Hajime goes through with the Ultimate Talent Project, because I think it's honestly more narratively interesting if he doesn't.
Yes, it is, but then again, that's kind of one of the large flaws that prequels tend to have, is they have to follow the story to, or the backstory to a letter, so...
Well, and I mean, it also
take.
is, it's not the story that Danganronpa is trying to tell, and I can respect that, but it's very much it's not supposed to be an inspiring feel-good story about, coming to grips with the fact that, you don't have to be amazing at something to still, have value. That's not what they're going for with Danganronpa.
That said,
Not per se, but at the same time, if this wasn't a prequel, it wouldn't necessarily be locked in that storyline. I could totally see them going in the opposite direction. And probably having, like, the backup instead become what,
Yeah.
Hajime eventually became.
Isuru, I think is the name.
Yeah.
That said, I honestly think that him deciding to go for the program, if he does, spoilers, he does, actually makes sense in a way leading to him falling to despair.
But, I mean, that's the point. Because he has to fall to despair, he has to decide with this, and etc. It's a prequel, so there's a lot of predetermination to it.
Yeah, but, I mean, that's okay. At this point, Mahiro and Sato have a talk as Mahiro sort of drags Sato away in order to avoid escalating the confrontation any further. Sato is putting kind of a lot of fucking pressure on Mahiro, saying things like she's the hope of the photo club and someday your photos will spread around the world. Mahiro just wants to take the photo she wants to take, though, and it just so happens that she's incredibly good at it. Meanwhile, on everybody else's lunch break, we get a panning shot of the 77th class enjoying their lunch.
The only reason I included the screenshot was because Nagito with the pigeon just amuses the shit out of me.
You did ask for this screenshot for that reason. I would have asked for this. I would have put this screenshot in here anyways, just to point out I am incredibly worried about those bunnies around Hyoko.
Yes.
Yeah.
Given what we know about Hyoko.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, off in an alley, Fuyuhiko and Peko are having sort of a discussion, talking about Natsumi. Fuyuhiko acknowledges that Natsumi is basically kind of fucking crazy, but tells Peko that, like, she doesn't need to do anything about it, and he was just really letting her know so that she wouldn't be caught off guard by Natsumi being there. It seems like there would be more to this conversation, but Ibuki comes around the corner and finds the two of them, and they basically have to sort of split up to keep their relationship a secret, because, again, at this point, Fuyuhiko is still trying to live a quote-unquote normal high school life, I guess as normal a high school life as you can, being a super high school level student at Hope's Peak, and doesn't really want it revealed that Peko is his bodyguard. There is a point where
also Fuyuhiko being a better person than he lets on kind of wants Peko to get out of the mindset of being a bodyguard and into being a normal person.
Yeah, no,
so there's a bit of that too.
Yeah, Fuyuhiko definitely does what, has his stance on Peko, at least partially, because he's like, listen, I want you to, like, be able to be a relatively normal person, like, and not just always be in the mindset of being a straight-up fucking hitman, which is what she is. A little while later, Hajime witnesses another confrontation between Sato and Natsumi, like in the hallway. Natsumi runs off after Hajime stops Sato from hitting her, and Hajime chases her down to one of the hallways at the school. Natsumi shows some actual, like, kind of vulnerability about her determination to get to the main course, revealing that she kind of has a bit of an inferiority complex because her brother is a super high school level student. She's basically worried because she thinks that if she doesn't also have a super high school level talent, she essentially has no place being anywhere near her brother. So if she doesn't have talent, she'll get left behind. It's interesting, and, like, I feel like if we had more time with the character to go into it more, it would work better to kind of give this motivation and justification. But, like,
it could be an interesting thing to explore. Unfortunately, this is Danganronpa.
Yeah.
So we know what happens to this character.
Yeah, they have that conversation, and it kind of ends after a little while. As Hajime is walking to school the next day, he kind of thinks a lot about both what Natsumi was saying about, not being worthy of being near talented people if you don't have talent, and sort of also weighing them against the things he's been told by Tengen and Chiaki, about how, like, there's nothing wrong with being normal, and in a lot of ways, life is better if you're normal because you don't have as much expectation on them. He arrives at school, and there has... did I miss a screenshot again? Hold on.
And there has been a polite conversation about this fountain.
I know I took this screenshot. I might have not included it. Hold on. Despair 3. Oh, no, it got lost somehow.
Gentlemen,
wonderful.
there has been a murder.
Oh, no, never mind. I think it got put in the wrong order. There we go.
There you go.
There has been a murder. This is the start of the events we saw in Danganronpa 2 through the Twilight Syndrome murder case, with Natsumi having been killed in the music room. Fuyuhiko and Peko take this well. Interestingly, we're back to neon pink blood here. Well, we haven't really seen any blood yet in Despair Arc. Future Arc has definitely had just regular-ass red blood, as we've pointed out a couple times. We are in sort of a weird pastel lighting zone right now, so it could be a stylistic thing. But we will see as time sort of goes on that, no, Despair Arc actually sticks to the neon pink blood, which I think is an interesting choice. To also kind of stick with the style and theming of the games, since we're, since all the stuff here is direct prequel information to, like, established backstory for a game that we've already seen, whereas Future Arc is its own story and sort of doing its own thing, albeit as a sequel to those events. So it's kind of interesting that there's actually that difference in stylistic choice here to show the blood is the sort of neon pink in Despair Arc, but have it just be like regular ass red blood in Future Arc. So at this point, go ahead.
There was a blink and you'll miss it moment in the first episode of Despair. I believe it was when Terror was getting recruited, or
when he had like
back
a
into school,
nosebleed.
when we saw pink blood. It was established earlier for like a second.
Yeah, but we haven't seen any like actual like violence blood. We've seen very little blood in Despair Arc prior to this, essentially.
Yeah.
At this point, Hajime overhears Mahiro and Sato talking. Again, this is actually a conversation, if I recall correctly, we did actually see in Twilight Syndrome murder case in Danganronpa 2. Basically with Mahiro kind of being like, hey, like, Sato, like, did you do something? Like, I know you and Natsumi were, like, kind of butting heads. Like, what the fuck's going on? And, Sato claims that she didn't kill Mahiro, and it was like, some wandering person came in. Mahiro believes her. It's all pretty obviously a lie. And after Mahiro leaves, Hajime comes up to confront Sato about it. Sato essentially freaks out and runs off, and then stops coming to school for a few days, and then it's declared that they have found her dead body. After this all happens, Hajime wants to go to the main course building to ask Mahiro about the events, and gets stopped by Hope's Peak security. Sakakura is apparently in charge of security at Hope's Peak Academy during this time, and sees nothing wrong with hurling a student bodily to the ground, showing that him being a colossal dickbag is by no means a recent development in the Future Arc.
Nope. He's always been like that.
I mean, I will
Always
say
been an asshole.
it's at least a little bit more understandable that he's sort of a colossal dickbag who's too big for his britches when you do realize that he used to be a rent-a-cop.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, Sakakura basically tells Hajime that the official story is that a girl was killed at the school by an intruder that snuck in, and her classmate died from shock after of the incident happening. He also clarifies that Sakakura, despite being in charge of security at Hope's Peak Academy, does not care if Reserve Corps students get killed because he doesn't think of them as equals and barely thinks of them as people.
He says this while literally standing on top of Hajime's head.
Yeah.
Basically equates the reverse course as like dogs serving their masters.
Yeah. So Hajime kind of gets fed up with this bullshit, and gets angry enough that he takes a few swings at Sakakura. Sakakura, obviously being the former super high school level boxer, dodges most of these swings, but Hajime does actually manage to brush Sakakura's cheek with just like a full body weight swing. This pisses Sakakura off enough that he goes to completely clobber Hajime until Chisa fucking DBZ teleports in front of him to stop the fight. Hajime at this point storms off, still absolutely furious at Sakakura. And like, you know, basically like he's got a little like blood coming out of his mouth, and Chisa offers him a handkerchief to wipe it away, and he just slaps it out of her hand. We get credits rolling over a scene of Sakakura and Chisa talking. Sakakura is also actually here at Hope's Peak Academy to work for Kyosuke, investigating and uncovering what the board are up to. We're supposed to believe that Sakakura is actually troubled by the deaths, and even more so bothered by the cover-up, since it shows that Hope's Peak is rotten. This would be more believable if we did not already know that Sakakura, and Kyosuke for that matter, are pieces of shit cleverly disguised as human beings.
Yeah, like, I believe that the anime is trying to be genuine about him covering up his concerns with a veneer of assholery, but the problem is that to the viewer, this does not work. We've already had 4 episodes now. I don't think he showed up in the first one, but we've already had a number of episodes that show that this guy is just a piece of shit. And you can't, like, just drop a line implying that he feels bad about being a piece of shit without doing something about it. That just means he's a piece of shit.
Yeah, like if his first answer to things wasn't violence in the future arc stuff, it'd be like, oh, okay, he's acting like an asshole right now. But no, you've just shown that he's clearly an asshole.
He actually gives a reason why he acted like this in this. That was a way of like, I have to appear to be this asshole to protect this reserve, because if this reserve looks into it too much, he's gonna get killed. That would be perfectly fine if the future arc did not show what an unrepentant shit he's still in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
also as... Go ahead.
It's less a thin veneer and more like a full-fledged frozen sheet of shit covering up anything of merit under this person.
Yeah, so also as part of this discussion, Chisa outright tells Sakakura that he shouldn't get violent with students, and Sakakura reacts like this is some brand new thought to him as he agrees to it. How the fuck did this man get hired to be security at a school?
He was a former.
I think
he was a
specifically
former
it's because
super high school
High
level
up,
slash
pulse
ultimate.
rings. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's specifically the only way he got to be a security to school is because he's security at Hope's Peak Academy, a place where rational thought goes to die.
well, and we know that what Kyosuke pulled strings again.
Yes,
so
we also know that he's part of Kyosuke's inner
investigating
conflict.
the school.
So then the episode concludes with Chiaki waiting at the fountain for Hajime because she got a new game for them to play together, a thing we saw a little ways earlier. Hajime says he can't stay because he has something he needs to do. He tells her to make sure to make lots of memories because she's not just a super high school level gamer, and there's much more to her. Hajime heads off, with Sakakura's shittiness having driven him to decide to accept that he should take part in the project to become the artificial ultimate talent and ultimate hope. Congratulations, Sakakura. You being a dipshit basically led to the faction you're opposed to achieving their plan. And with that, we head into Future Arc Episode 4. Yeah, there's the Chiaki and Hajime.
Yeah.
Future Arc Episode 4, which starts off with a Monokuma Theater. This is recapping the first 3 episodes of Future Arc. Not really a whole lot to talk about here since
We've been over it.
Literally doing a whole podcast discussing this episodes. If you want to recap,
it's...
go watch and listen to session 1 of Talkin'ronpa and like the first quarter of this one.
Or this one.
Just amused me that we got a Monokuma Theater at all.
Yep.
The best part of this Monokuma Theater is even it takes pot shots at Yasuhiro. I actually had to pause watching the episode when this happened because I was laughing too hard. Just Sakakura getting stuck outside because nobody likes it.
Nobody likes it.
The best part is what it is actually a translation of is the little scroll of text at the bottom. Done like a news feed.
Uh-huh.
It's so beautiful.
I feel like in the entirety of the series, the only important thing that Hagakure has ever been is the only useful things we've gotten from him are two props: his crystal ball and his school notes. He has literally never contributed.
Oh, I absolutely
Any
love.
other way.
I absolutely love Yasuhiro because he has the most extreme himbo energy of anyone in the series, and it's just beautiful to have. It is just beautiful to have someone who is constantly so oblivious that they don't even realize how oblivious they are, and yet you can't really hate him.
Also, probably why he's lived as long as he has, ironically.
Yeah. So,
I mean, it's not like they didn't try to frame him before.
Yeah. So, out of the intro, we come back to Sakakura performing the world's worst lion tamer act.
He's the lion. He just stole the chair from the tamer.
Yeah. This is definitely a tense situation, though obviously not nearly as tense as where we actually left off from episode 3 of Kyosuke charging Naegi with an actual fucking katana. Just as to clarify, there's going to be large sections of this episode that I honestly just don't have screenshots of. This episode is very heavily action-focused, and that doesn't translate all that well into screenshots. I've done my best to kind of screenshot poignant, like, important things, but a lot of, like, the fight sequences are... I would have to take, like, 6 screenshots and go through them rapidly to have any, like, clue of what they're actually representing.
It also doesn't help that this episode also jumps around between 4 or 5 scenes a lot and just
very
shuffles
quickly.
them rapidly.
Yeah. Tengen tries to settle Sakakura down, but Sakakura pretty much outright states that even though Tengen is the chairman, he doesn't have to listen to him because Kyosuke is his actual boss. At the risk of sounding repetitive, that's definitely the exact kind of thing somebody wholly focused on doing good for the best of humanity would say. Sakakura does huck the chair at Tengen, but misses and hits a steam pipe, since that's apparently just a thing running through the walls of this building.
Hey, the strategically placed steam pipes are there for our own defense in situations like this.
There would be pipes going through walls, and the place is pretty messed up now, so I could see an exposed pipe getting hit.
Yes, but why are they carrying steam?
Can't help you.
There's a sauna on there.
Oh yeah, sauna. There you go.
Oh, no, wait. The entire place is actually steam-powered?
You would think that the resulting steam cloud would be great cover to run away, but instead Sakakura just hucks his jacket at Tengen and then sucker kicks him. Mitorei tries once again to intervene in a violent situation and once again fails miserably, this time getting knocked over and falling directly on Kyoko's ankle. We cut to Izuyoi and Ruruka hauling ass away from Roid Rage Battle Cat pharmacist. But it seems like they were leading her actually into like an explosive booby trap, apparently.
Which does not work at all.
Yeah, it works fabulously.
There's a powerful no-cell here.
Yeah, it accomplishes absolutely fucking nothing. Like, the explosion happens, the smoke clears, and she is just hauling ass directly at them again.
There is maybe a second of, haha, we did it, if that, and then boom, she's just out of the dust cloud and chasing them.
Well, shit, run!
So we do then get... we cut over to Asahina and Gekogahara, who are sort of hearing these explosions going off. And Gekogahara decides that this is a good time to get the fuck out of Dodge as she sends her wheelchair up over a bunch of rubble. Apparently it's just like an all-terrain wheelchair.
Yeah.
We finally come back around to the fight we started with, and it looks like Sakakura drastically underestimated the old man. The hit he took from Sakakura seemed to have done about sweet, glorious fuck all to him, and he charges in, deflecting the office chair, which Sakakura once again throws at him, with no real effort. He just kind of puts his hand up, and the thing goes fucking flying off. Sakakura pulls a punch just before hitting Tengen, which probably would have knocked his nose out the back of his skull. And this is the point where I brought up earlier that I don't think Asahina was actually in that much danger, because I think Sakakura's NG code is he can't punch anybody. That's my theory right now. My suspicion is he cannot actually punch anybody, because if you think about it, so far since the killing game started, the super high school level boxer has not attacked once with his fists. He's thrown chairs, he's thrown knives, he's tried to stab people, he's kicked people. This is the first actual punch he's thrown, and he pulls it before it lands.
A kick would also kill Asahina, but
yeah. But my point is like, he wasn't when Mitorei intervened in the room or other stuff like that. Like it was still thinking of him in aspect of a boxer at that point. That being said, it's probably unfortunate that he didn't, if he is able to throw punches, and I'm wrong about his NG code, it's probably bad for him that he pulled the punch. If his NG code is that he dies if he punches anybody, he probably should have done something else. Because Tengen responds to this by elbow striking Sakakura's soul out of his fucking body.
Yup.
As it turns out, Tengen is actually kind of a badass.
Tengon's got some powerful Master Asia energy.
Yeah, he's got that Chinese kung fu.
Yeah. They tie up Sakakura, and Asahina and Gekugahara meet up with them in the hallways. Mitorei starts to go all depressive on us, and Kyoko and Asahina basically cheer him up, kind of explaining, listen, you can't, do things the same way Naegi does, but also you're not yet Naegi, you're you. There are things you can do that nobody else can, et cetera, et cetera.
You can animate, for example.
Yeah.
Don't feel doubtful, but yeah.
And just as things are kind of starting to look up, Kyosuke comes over the intercom and announces that he has captured Naegi and is about to execute him. As you do when you're, a good guy. After a little discussion, it's decided that this is clearly a trap, but they might be able to negotiate, because otherwise Kyosuke would have just killed Naegi already. A little bit of back and forth. Kyoko initially says, she'll go to negotiate, but Tengen basically says, no, if it's going to be negotiation, let me do it. I've
been meaning to talk to this asshole anyway.
Yeah, I need to have a one-on-one talk with him anyways, and also, I've got some experience with negotiation, etc., etc.
Go be a detective.
We actually cut over to the room where Kyosuke and Naegi are, as Naegi starts to come to. We got a little clip shot of this before when Kyosuke was on the intercom with Naegi passed out on the ground, but now Naegi is waking up. And this is what I was talking about earlier, where Kyosuke, saying possibly the first actually logical thing he said in the entire fucking series, says that it's obvious that Naegi is not the attacker. And it's pretty clear that ever since the killing game started, Kyosuke actually knew that Naegi wasn't the attacker. He believes that the actual purpose of the killing game is not necessarily to actually kill everybody off, but rather kill off a few people just to make it seem like it's legit and a real dangerous situation, and then have the attacker just stop killing people. The attacker would then essentially be sort of incognito with the other survivors as winners of the game, and therefore sort of hailed as a hero, and be in a very good position of power within the Future Foundation. The position is even stronger if Naegi is also alive there, because Naegi is sort of a symbol of hope to humanity because of the events at Hope's Peak. So his presence makes the Future Foundation's position much stronger, having that symbol of hope here, which would then make it even better because the attacker, who is secretly Ultimate Despair, could easily undermine and, sort of arrange things to continue increasing humanity's despair, all the while avoiding suspicion because they're part of Future Foundation, which obviously is, working to bring hope to humanity, like Makoto Naegi is here. This is actually a really clever conclusion, and it honestly makes it baffling how much of a dumbass Kyosuke has been otherwise.
It is, but it also kind of has its flaws, as if that was their original plan, you would think they would choose better victims. Kyoko would be pretty high on my list of people to immediately kill.
That being said, Kyosuke making, a lot of really good and pretty decently logical points, immediately ruins it again by saying that this is justification for why he has to kill Naegi, like right now. You can't give us, 10 fucking seconds, Kyosuke. 10
Nope,
fucking
not a
seconds
kill.
of you being, an actual good, intelligent character. For fuck's sake.
Look, he's got a big old murder bone.
Just as it looks like Kyosuke is going to go in for the killing blow on Naegi, Tengen blasts the katana out of his hand with a wrist-mounted dart launcher, but somehow has enough force to knock the katana across a room, but not to snap the old man's elbow like a fucking twig. For fuck's sake, man, do not lock your joints while firing. While this was going on, Kyoko was headed off to investigate the dead bodies. When she gets to the conference room, she finds a bargain basement Johnny Depp lookalike there.
Eventually, this character will do something.
Don't hold your breath.
I'm not.
When she asks, why he's like, oh, you're obviously here to, investigate the body, right? She counters by asking, what the fuck he's doing there. And he essentially says that at a time like this, the safest place to be is closest to a detective. Kizukura clearly has never actually consumed any sort of mystery media. People die around Columbo, Sherlock Holmes, and Conan Edogawa all the fucking time.
Yes. But it did imply that he knew that Kyoko was going to come here.
I mean, it's a pretty obvious conclusion to make. Kizukura is not stupid. He's just kind of a lazy, useless piece of shit.
He actually concludes that when, in the previous episode...
Yeah, when we see him on the walkway.
She first rages out and chases after the other two.
Yeah. That he sort of declares, oh, well, I better go,
Yeah, I better go see that girl, he says specifically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then in this episode we find out that girl.
He's been hanging out here waiting for her.
Yeah.
Also, in fairness, with Kyosuke and Sakakura in the series, I'm loath to call anyone else a piece of shit by comparison.
I don't necessarily think he's a piece of shit. He's just fucking lazy and mostly useless.
Fair.
He's a piece of shit in a different way. So they have a little bit of discussion as she starts investigating the body, but nothing of real super terrible relevance. Also, when they split up, Tengen specifically sent Mitorei to go with Kyoko to quote-unquote escort her.
Yep. And Asahina and
Tengen went with Tengen.
That's Sakakura? No. Is that her name?
Gekko.
Sakakura. Yeah.
Gekko and Asahina
Wheelchair.
went with Tengen.
Yeah. So we then head back to the monitor room, and apparently Tengen's dart launcher, in addition to being hyper powerful, is also rapid fire. As Kyosuke starts having to dodge around the room doing cartwheels and shit to avoid an assault from the old man. While he's pinned down, Asahina heads over to get Naegi. Tengen essentially sends them away in order to go one-on-one with Kyosuke, saying that he believes in Naegi as the super high school level hope, and basically says as long as you can get away, as long as you're around, we can make it out of this.
Something important happens in this scene, or something that would be important that happens in the scene, but it's kind of once again the three guys I'm going to bring up. Gekko turns right in this scene.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah.
Which is her kill command for her bracelet.
Yep. So we return to the conference room where Kyoko is busy investigating Chisa's corpse. There's a little bit of a discussion sort of about what kind of person would run a killing game like this. And it seems like Mitorei might have some ideas about it, but they don't elaborate any further before we cut away. We cut back to the hallway, where Asahina, Gekko, and Naegi, who is riding passenger on Gekko wheelchair, since he can't run in the halls, are burning ass away from the monitor room. Sakakura spots them and gives chase, because he just can't resist fucking things up. He does spot Kyosuke and Tengen facing off on a lower level, but Kyosuke tells him to keep chasing Naegi rather than coming to help him. We then quickly cut over to Izuyoi and Ruruka, who are barricading themselves in a room from Kimura, and Izuyoi tells Ruruka to run away first, and he'll hold her off. I still do not give a fuck about these two or their relationship, no matter how hard the series tries.
Yeah, but Pharmacy Girl's capable of punching through a reinforced steel door.
I mean, when she's
Hey,
popped up on that many drugs.
In fairness, it's nice to have a low stakes B plot where you don't actually care that much about the characters, as just kind of a refresher between the other nonsense.
There is also a little thing that I appreciated about this scene, just to hammer home how much of a piece of shit the confectioner is. Back in the previous episode, when the pharmacist, the blacksmith, and her were arguing with each other about the...
That's not the previous episode, that's the next episode.
Huh? No.
Oh, before
In
she
the
breaks it
future
out.
arc. Never mind. Okay,
The future arc one where they
Never
were
mind,
arguing
yeah.
about the incident.
Yeah, who's the traitor? You're the traitor. No, you betrayed me, etc., etc.
Yeah, specifically, it was the confectioner who brought up the incident and called the pharmacist a traitor to the organization, and specifically accused her of being the traitor in the killing game, not just a traitor in whatever this incident was. During this scene with the bulkhead, when it's clear that all the drums and stuff they're putting in front of the door can't stop her, she's the one who backpedals and says, "Hey, weren't we friends before? We used to all be good friends." And immediately, like a clawed hand punches through the bulkhead and screams, "No, you betrayed me, you asshole."
Yeah,
It's
so
going down.
Yeah, it is at this point revealed that Ruruka is somehow maybe responsible for Kimura getting expelled, and conversely, Kimura is responsible for Ruruka and Izuroi getting expelled. This seems like a comedy of errors just waiting to be explained that I still don't care about.
We'll get into it later.
Yeah.
Now we're just sort of rapidly cutting between various action scenes. This is where I kind of gave up trying to screenshot things because we were switching between scenes every, 15 to 20 seconds, honestly.
Yeah.
Just imagine sword fights in your head or something. I don't fucking know. In Tengon's showdown with Kyosuke, he once again reveals himself to be far more than just an ordinary old man, as he hurls Kyosuke 10 feet in a hip throw by the katana. He then calls him naive and says that his fanaticism is ill-conceived, and taunts him, asking if Chisa's death was one of those acceptable sacrifices in the name of hope. This very much pisses off Kyosuke, who goes on the attack, and the old dude's pretty fucking hardcore.
Yeah, blocks the sword with his gun bracelet thing by just letting him chop his hand in half.
Yeah.
And then uses that same hand to twist and hurl them both off of the walkway they're on, which is about 3 stories up, thereabouts.
Old man goes hard.
We then go down the hall to Asahina, Gekogahara, and Naegi. Gekogahara detects that Sakakura is chasing them and basically volunteers to hold them off. To her, it's really the only logical action, since Naegi can't run in the halls, and Asahina will die if she's punched or kicked, so neither of them can really fight all that effectively. She heads down the hall to confront Sakakura, with fucking missile launchers mounted in her wheelchair.
Yep.
Because, of course.
Meanwhile, we cut back to the old man and Kyosuke. As part of the fall, Tengon ended up impaled on some rebar sticking out of some rubble, whereas Kyosuke seems mostly alright, maybe a little beat up and bruised from the fall, but otherwise generally okay.
Because gravity means nothing.
In, talking to him and, kind of discussing things, Tengen sort of finally managed to get through to Kyosuke a little bit, it seems, who admits that maybe his way of thinking isn't always perfectly right, and he's kind of curious to know more about what Tengen is thinking. Unfortunately, he has come to this conclusion as the old guy's about to bleed out on a fucking rock.
Yeah. And this is the outlier that I was talking about in the beginning with the death cards, because the death card for Tengon is him getting electrocuted.
In fairness, we don't know that he dies here.
Yeah, exactly. In my notes I have, I don't know if he's dead or just...
Yeah, he's still alive at the end of the episode. He just has a piece of rebar through his chest.
Yep.
And his hand was cut in half.
We cut back to the hallway, where Sakakura has somehow managed to survive a missile barrage. So Gekogahara decides she's going to unleash her 7 secret weapons!
Weapon number 1!
Yeah, Sakakura interrupts the deployment of the first by roundhousing Gekogahara in the head, which leads to the shocking revelation that Gekogahara is actually a robot being controlled by Monica!
Hooray.
Yes. This is why I said, the whole thing about her not being able to turn right was moot. because Poison Brewster can't kill her because she's a robot controlled by Monica.
Yep.
Also,
And-
Monica in general, which was the spoiler from the cast list that made me not want to talk about things last week.
Yeah.
I actually thought there was an episode in like a point like episode 2 where she actually turns right as well. And after in episode 3, she said like, "Oh, I can't turn right." I was like, "I'm pretty sure she did." So I was gonna go back and grab that after I watched all of it, and it was like, "Oh wait, doesn't fucking matter."
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I pretty much knew that was bullshit from the statement because, quite frankly, Monica does not actually look that different from Gekigahara. I didn't actually see it being a robot, but that works too, I guess.
okay, so I will
I
point
already
out.
suspect
I was
Gekigahara.
thinking there was something up with her as well, because there's a couple scenes like with her and like when they're together with Asahina and
Okay, so I will bring up two things at the moment, real
Main
quick,
character
Vince,
boy.
just to clarify some stuff for you. First off, Gekigahara / Monica is not actually the traitor and/or attacker, so that was not spoiled for you.
I figured that. already.
And additionally, there is actually Gekigahara was actually a real person. This is a robot double.
Yeah, obviously.
So her looking like Monica is actually entirely coincidental. The robot looks like the real Gekigahara.
Yeah, I figured that much. I just also figured that Monica might have been able to pull a Gekigahara disguise, but apparently they just went with robot, so I guess that works too.
Yep.
yeah. And so another interesting thing I was noticing about Gekigahara is I watched through like a scene 2 or 3 times just to confirm it, but in like a fairly decently long scene in which she's having a conversation with Asakura and Naegi, she never blinks while both of them do multiple times.
Yeah.
Huh. That's a good
So
tell.
that being said, that is where we leave off on Future 4. On to Despair 4. We're now just one day before the annual practical exams. Even as a super high school level student who was specifically scouted for Hope's Peak, if you don't perform well at your practical exams, then you get kicked out of the school. The class seems highly enthusiastic about it.
My favorite thing is actually wanted Alive or Alive posters.
Yes, those. So that is a dog. That is a thing that'll show up a few times in the background throughout this episode, and has a major part in the
episode.
the episode's conclusion. But yeah, that wanted Alive or Alive poster is absolutely fucking adorable, and
My
is
favorite part is that it doesn't get explained at all why.
No, it's just there. They never bring it up. The dog shows up later, but that poster's just here, and it's just like it's Chekhov's gun.
It's effectively a Chekhov's gun.
Yep.
Well, it's also that it's just the justification behind the posters. It's a stray dog that's wandering around the school grounds that they want to pick up and get it off the school grounds. That again doesn't get explicitly explained, but it's like in like a notes thing. So I actually have an honest question at this point that never occurred to me until just now, because the practical exam has like come up before, but it didn't really click with me then. I get how you could do a practical exam for something like, say, super high school level mechanic or chef or like animator. You know, you show something you made or you do something for the judges and like present it. How do you have a practical exam for like super high school level gangster or super high school level princess?
Yeah, that's the one that and luck are the ones that I'm like.
Even
what?
more so.
Well,
would you even bother to have a practical exam for someone whose talent is fucking luck? By definition, they would have to pass, right?
If they
Or
don't
not.
pass, then they obviously don't have super high school level luck.
Except that it's already been confirmed that his luck is, it could be either good or bad.
Nagito's luck, remember, specifically is like a balance thing where bad luck for others becomes good luck for him.
Luck for him.
Yeah.
Yes, but it's also a matter of it can swing the other way.
It
never actually does.
No, everything.
It did, too.
No, it doesn't though, because things still basically turned out how he wanted it to.
Yeah.
Remember,
specifically-
Nagito does a lot of lying about what the real goal of the bomb was in 2. There's at least 2 times where he says that the bomb is for a particular purpose, but then changes up what it's supposed to do later on when the first ruse is revealed and then the second.
And furthermore, Nagito's whole purpose in the events of 2, after he essentially recovers his memories and sort of knows who he is to see Hope shine brightly, which is what ends up happening, but it's just not any of the hope of the cast of DR2. It is specifically Naegi's hope. So the events of DR2 still actually do work out to what Nagito wants them to be, just not in the way he thought it did.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, it basically always works. It usually works out very poorly for everyone around him, but always eventually ends up the way he wanted it to be.
And also, during the course of events may seem like it's working out poorly for him, but the end result always ends up being what he wants to happen. Anyways, that was just a weird digression I had where I was just like, it doesn't seem very practical to have practical exams for sort of intangible talents.
And it's like, I can't explain Gangster, but clearly they just compare Ultimate Princess to like a Disney princess.
I think Sonya, even pre-Ultimate Despair, is a little bit too psychotic and murderous to fall on the Disney princess scale, frankly.
It probably depends on the princess.
She is still a princess of sort of a tyrannical dictatorship of a nation.
It's true, and she idolizes serial killers.
I mean, let's be honest. Her test is actually simple. She walks in there, commands them to let her pass, and they either do it or, she sets her troops on them.
So anyway,
No,
go ahead.
it should be noted, she is just a figurehead.
So Nagito basically is asking for the exam to be postponed or canceled because the recent murders are, kind of dampening everybody's spirits. He wants to make sure that everybody is taking the exams at their best, so, and I quote, their talents can shine even brighter. Chisa would actually like to be able to do this, but really can't because the Hope Speak Practical Exam is a huge media event. It makes sense, I suppose, for a school that is supposed to produce the hope for the future of all humanity.
And like the best of a given thing.
Yeah. Like, it definitely makes sense for it to be like a media event and for it to be like shown off and broadcast and whatnot. Nagito initially seems to accept this, but then immediately transitions to I'm going to make problems on purpose mode.
Mm-hmm.
To be Nagito.
And this again is exactly why I'm like, listen, Naegi, your plan about restoring them to their pre-Junko is perfectly valid with one exception.
Okay, he's dead.
He was always a shit stirrer.
He's not dead.
Not dead. None of them
Nobody
are dead.
died in Danganronpa 2.
One of us stated that if they died in the
They were
Nope.
they were in a coma in the stasis pods. They did not die. It was not if you die in the game, you die in real life. Nobody died in Danganronpa 2.
Specifically because they've done this multiple times. That wasn't the first iteration of the Hope's Peak Project simulation. That was, like, one of the much later ones.
Meanwhile, Chiaki is off at the fountain playing games by herself. Seems like Hajime hasn't shown up recently and has just kind of been absent, not only from hanging out with Chiaki, but also just in general, like absent from school for a few days. We don't actually know exactly how long after the last episode this episode is, but presumably not super long because everyone is still kind of reeling from the deaths. We cut back to Nagito, who is providing Teruteru with a photo book of Sayaka, the super high school level idol from the first game. And in exchange, Nagito wants Teruteru to put him in touch with Kimura, who it was established had worked with Teruteru on making his super doping corn soup, like way back in like the first episode. At this time, Kimura is still a student at Hope's Peak Academy. Nagito wants to get a super laxative from her for certainly not dubious and suspicious reasons whatsoever. Just as he's about to get it from her, Ruruka shows up with Izuyoi to ask for a performance-enhancing drug. The drugs are respectively named Reactivator and Reanimator, and happen to be stored like on the same shelf. Nagito's luck flares up and he falls, causing the vials to both fall off the shelf. I missed that screenshot again.
Looks like it.
Yeah, anytime I say I missed a screenshot, I'm just checking to make sure. Yeah, no, it didn't make it in there. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, that's fine.
But basically, they both fall off the shelf, but because of his luck, he does manage to catch them before they hit the floor, but he does lose track of which is which. Because they're labeled in English, which he presumably can't read, is just kind of my guess, realistically.
Between that and considering the name she gave them, figuring out which one is which is not
Reanimator and
Reactivator.
Yeah.
He decides to leave it up to his luck in order to choose the right one, and ends up taking the Reanimator instead. As Nagito comes out of the storage room, Izue has the correct instinctive reaction to seeing him.
Holds a knife.
Kimura explains that he was just here to get a laxative, and Nagito just kind of walks off. Ruruko, having emotionally manipulated Kimura into helping her, because Ruruka is a fucking bitch, goes to the storage room to get the Reanimator, which in this case is actually the Reactivator, because Nagito put the Reactivator back on the shelf in the spot he thought it was supposed to go into, because he thought it was the Reanimator. I'm sure this won't have any consequences whatsoever. So the next day, there is a ransom note posted saying to postpone the practical exam or bad things will happen. The teachers realize that with all the fucking insane-ass students they have around this campus, just about anything is possible, even so far as there being bombs planted somewhere, as we cut to a scene of bombs planted in the rafters of the auditorium.
Mm-hmm.
Kimura
They eventually rip it down and don't care about it.
Yeah, basically. They're just like, fuck it, whatever. Like, it's probably just a prank. Kimura and Nagito run into each other in the hallway and end up getting their school bags switched. We then go to the auditorium where the practical exam is being held. Ruruka is presenting cream puffs she made to the judges. She claims that with a single bite, somebody eating one will be filled with energy and wholly reinvigorated. The judges bite in, and the creams are so good that they stop being goo people.
Yes, they were originally shadow people, but as they bite into it, the shadowness like flares off of their body, and they turn into like actual people.
Also, another Food Wars joke / reference here. Just as a whole.
Yes.
And then they very rapidly go from being goo people to real people to poo people.
It's a very, very fast-acting laxative.
She did say it was very strong.
Ruruka,
The ultimate, considering what the ultimate chemist has done in the past, yeah, this tracks.
I mean, she said it was very strong and to use in moderation, and I'm assuming that Confectioner Bitch did not use this in moderation in any way, shape, or form.
no.
Nope.
No, probably not. As a matter of fact, I'm surprised they have not literally shit their pants off.
I mean, we never see below the waist here.
Like a rocket into the rafters.
There's just a fucking mountain underneath each of these judges. Ruruka and Izuyoi basically both think that Kimura gave them the wrong drug on purpose. The judges follow this up by accusing Kimura of being the one to place the threat, thinking this was all her plan to delay the practical exam. She goes to open her bag to retrieve some drugs to help the judges, but because her bag got switched with Nagito's, it has the detonator in it. Surprise! Nagito was the one who made the threat and planned to blow up the auditorium.
Because, you know, as you do.
Also, all that's
He's nothing
fair
if not
enough to
thorough.
What I do find really funny about this, and we'll kind of touch on this in this half second here, but again, it's actually incredibly funny to me that effectively what Nagito initially planned to happen is exactly what actually happened, even though he ended up not being able to pull it off himself. He still dosed the judges with laxatives, and then in a minute here, the auditorium's going to get blown up. Spoilers. Although my real question is, what the fuck is the point of the laxatives if you're just going to blow up the building?
He specifically says that's his backup plan.
Yep,
Yeah.
That was plan B.
That was plan B.
Anyways,
Now, I do have one, like, pet theory from this scene.
Okay.
from the thing earlier. So the confectioner implies when she first goes to get the super drug that she's done this plenty of times before, and implies they've known each other since they were like kids. It's my theory she doesn't actually have a super high school level confectioner talent. She's been faking it using the pharmacist's drugs.
My thing is I think that is probably wholly inaccurate because the judges were blown away by her creme shoes.
Yeah.
Yes, they think they were really good.
Yeah,
until they shat themselves.
Those creme shoes did not have any hyper energy drug in them. They were just good enough on their own, just as a regular flavor, to cause shadow people to become real people. And then the laxative kicked in.
Now, she has very clearly been abusing any sort of relationship she has with...
oh yeah, she's still absolutely a
Kyoko.
bitch, and like emotionally manipulative and shit. But she absolutely has an actual super high school level confectioner talent. Where was I? Right. The whole event is being broadcast, and there's a whole bunch of people like in the audience. And basically everything descends into chaos as it's revealed that there are bombs, and everybody starts freaking out. Ruruka immediately goes to blaming and deriding Kimura, declaring that she wants nothing to do with her. If I'm being honest, Kimura is probably better off without the manipulative bitch as a friend, but it still crushes her because she thought they were really close. This is the cause of all the animosity between these three in the future arc, and I still don't care. Meanwhile, we cut to the hallway outside, where Nagito is carrying a trace of quote-unquote laxative-laced coffee into the venue, and planning on setting off the bombs, if that doesn't work. A dog that has been sort of a background thing throughout this episode bumps him, causing one of the coffee cups to spill. The dog licks it up, and calamity ensues.
Chekhov's gun finally fired.
Yep.
The now giant dog bursts through the wall and starts wreaking havoc, while Nagito laments his bad luck that, his plan didn't come to fruition. In the resulting chaos, Ruruka and Kimura fall over and end up pressing the detonator. It's super effective! Nagito is left standing in front of the destroyed building as Chisa and a bunch of shadow teachers run up. He realizes that all the bad luck he thought he was experiencing ended up working out exactly the way he wanted in the end. We cut to
Also,
Nagito.
No one was injured.
Yes, no one was actually injured in this explosion. It's not revealed at exactly this moment, but it's like in a newspaper a little bit later. We cut to Nagito and Chisa chatting in a classroom, and Nagito is spouting some truly gross eugenics-ass shit about how people are either born worthy or worthless, and no matter how hard someone worthless tries, they can never become worthy. And this is like the face he has the whole time.
And then Chisa slaps the shit out of him.
Yeah, Nagito's always been crazy, apparently. Chisa, by the way, says there's no such thing as a hope that hurts others, which is just absolutely hilarious to me, given what her boyfriend gets up to. And yeah, she doesn't actually slap him about the eugenics shit he's spouting. She slaps him because he calls himself worthless, and she basically says, "You're not worthless, never say that." She's totally fine with all the weird Ubermensch shit he's spouting.
I mean, that's par for the course for this series, if you haven't noticed, when it comes to the pro-talent people.
Kind of, except,
I mean, he's more blunt about it, but it all kind of hits along the same lines.
My thing about it, though, is that considering the stuff that, Chisa has said to Chiaki and Hajime, either she's lying to them, or she's just choosing to ignore what Nagito is saying here.
In fairness, you should probably ignore what...
Go ahead.
In fairness, you should probably ignore everything Nagito says.
She seems to be very the exception to the rule, I'm noticing, about the idea of a talent makes you important. She seems like I've noticed throughout the game and throughout this. It appears the general attitude of society in general is if you have a talent, you are amazing regardless.
Ish. Tengun as well has that whole speech he gives Hajime about, there's nothing wrong with being normal. It's perfectly fine to live a normal life. There are definitely a lot of people very obsessed with talent and being, a super high school level something or other and, focusing in on that. But there are definitely more people out there that are just, kind of whatever.
Yeah, it seems like the exception more than the rule for those ones.
So, go ahead.
A lot of what we focus on in this setting, however, does rotate around Hope Speak Academy, so that attitude is pretty much what it was founded on in the first place.
Yeah, it's like we're going to get a skewed perspective of it just because all the main characters and all the people we're dealing with are surrounding Hope's Peak in some way or another, which obviously the philosophy of Hope's Peak Academy has to deal with. There is importance to the super high school level talents.
Going so far as to create an artificial super talent.
Yeah. Regardless, in the wake of the incident, Isayoi, Ruruka, and Kimura all get expelled as they are suspected of collaborating to cause the incident. Chisa has told the principal and the worst jazz man in the history of the world that Nagito was just a victim who got caught up in things, even though there are some reports that he was the instigator. The principal doesn't really buy this, but basically says, like, listen, like, if he's the one, he obviously didn't cause any of these events directly, and if his talent was able to manipulate events to, like, cause everything he wanted to happen still, without him being implicated directly in any way, that's not a talent we should let go of.
Yeah.
It is, on the one hand, it's somewhat gross sentiment, however, I'm trying to be charitable to Jin Kirigiri here and being more along the lines of, like, we should probably keep an eye on this guy and not a we can use this, even though I know it's probably a we can use this.
I mean, same organization is attempting to make a super talent.
Same organization. I'm not sure if Jin's actually directly behind it or something, but yeah.
The implication is that Jin isn't on the side of the board of directors, and the board of directors are the ones who are doing the super talent project.
He's at least aware of what they're doing. That's much as sort of implicated in the first episode when they're talking with him. That being said, there still have to be some repercussions because Nagito was still obviously involved somehow. He just gets, quote-unquote, suspended indefinitely. Kizukura, as the main homeroom teacher for his class, is placed on probation, and Chisa is reassigned to teach the reserve course. Chisa shows up at the class for the 77th class to tell them all that she'll be transferring, but they all basically already know. There was essentially an announcement made. They're understandably kind of upset about it, because over time they've, come to feel connected to her and really do, like, respect her as their teacher and have formed an emotional bond with her. They all, essentially think that Nagito is to blame for this, which, let's be real here, he is. But Chisa, being Chisa, says he did it all because he was thinking of his classmates, so they shouldn't be mad at him when he comes back, and they should welcome him kindly. Chisa promises she'll be back, because after all, she's their teacher. We at this point cut to the credits, and then after the credits, it's revealed that all of this still basically lines up with the plans that Chisa and Kyosuke have. Chisa is on the phone with Kyosuke, who is still busy posing in front of his grand monument to man's prowess. Essentially, they say, like, this will make investigating the board up to, investigating what they're up to much easier, because whatever they're doing obviously has something to do with the reserve course. Chisa is still pretty sad because she has to leave her students behind, and she too is starting to form an emotional bond with them. And that is where we end the final episode for this session. So, we've kind of covered a lot of ground here. A lot of stuff happened both on Future Arc side and Despair Arc side, and some pretty interesting things were revealed. At this point, we'll open it up if anyone has anything sort of in general they want to talk about in regards to the series or the episodes we watched. And also we can go through and talk about theories about who the attacker might be, but we'll do that after we kind of get through general discussion stuff.
Yeah.
So at the very least, we are starting to get the barest nuance of a character from Kyosuke in the future arc.
Yeah, like I said, I was honestly like, when he was kind of giving his whole talk, explaining like, hey, like, no, trust me, I know you're not actually the attacker, but it suits the attacker's purposes to have you alive. I was sitting there like, man, like, okay, Kyosuke actually isn't as much of a one-note dumbass as he seems to be. He's actually thought this out. He's just unfortunately come to some very wrong conclusions from the thoughts he's had.
It only suits the attacker to keep him alive if he actually is part of Ultimate Despair.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you know what I'm saying.
But the base concept of basically the killer will want to kill off people who are in his way and then be seen as basically the hero because he's one of the ones who survived, and the people who survived clearly aren't one of the killers behind it, so they're basically in a good position.
Right.
He's more implying that that is what Naegi is doing in that case, because keeping a Naegi alive wouldn't actually help a killer unless he was on their side.
No, but he explicitly says that in that scene, that he doesn't believe that Naegi is the attacker, and explicitly says, like, he's not saying that, I don't think he's at all saying that Naegi would necessarily have to be part of Ultimate Despair for him to be useful to the killer, because the thing about it is, Naegi wouldn't know any better either that the person was actually the killer and was doing this. He would just exist there as a symbol of hope and be part of the Future Foundation, so it would help even further cover up the killer's activities within Future Foundation of sowing despair.
See, I still got more that he was still thinking that Naegi was with Despair in some way, shape, or form in that one. Specifically because after explaining his ideal in that regard, we also see a bunch of like shots of like the goo people, but Naegi is the only one who actually shows up as Naegi.
No,
so
okay,
it's mentioning Naegi as a like leader of hope, while he is still actually Despair himself.
Well, I think those scenes were more intended to be that, like, he doesn't know who the actual attacker is either, so he's thinking of it in terms of just generic Future Foundation people, and Naegi, of course, would also still be part of Future Foundation. I do not think at this point I don't think that Kyosuke necessarily believes that Naegi isn't part of Ultimate Despair, but I don't think he thinks he definitely is anymore.
Which does beg the question as to why he would still want to kill Naegi, but...
Because Kyosuke's an asshole.
Yeah, that's pretty much where the whole thing falls apart.
And because Kyosuke is willing to sacrifice anyone in order to foil the plans of Despair, and Naegi being alive, regardless of whether he's part of Ultimate Despair or not, works towards the goals of the killer in this killing game.
I mean, I don't think it's... Well, no, because I think it's trying to kill Naegi because of the conversation that happens at the end of episode 3, in which basically like, he realizes that Naegi is like some sort of thing of hope, but his hope is quote-unquote empty, and it's just an ideal and not an actual, like, forged in the fires of war against Ultimate Despair.
Yeah,
so he's afraid that people are going to use the words of hope that he does to basically make their own opinions and everything.
Well, right.
I actually pulled up the episode.
But that's what I'm saying, though, is explicitly, he's saying that in aspect of Naegi being used by the attacker and by Ultimate Despair, so that's why he still wants to kill Naegi, not because he thinks Naegi necessarily is intentionally part of Ultimate Despair.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually went and pulled up the episode because I was curious about the exact wording. And basically, I would agree with Bograt's sentiment that at this point, he's not killing Naegi just because of his empty despair. He's also doing it because Naegi is the perfect prop to give credibility to the traitor once the killing game ends. The attacker will become a hero who controls the Future Foundation. If you are among the other survivors, their control will be even more complete.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the fact that he explicitly says other survivors implies to me that he does not think that Naegi is the one pulling this plan.
I mean, there's a few flaws to this, not the least of which is Naegi has been shown to, and Kyoko have both been shown to, kind of be able to root out random traitors from a group.
No, that's all a bunch of nonsense. They haven't seen True Despair.
Nobody's arguing that Kyosuke isn't a massive fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But his intention here is not like, I'm going to kill you because you're Ultimate Despair. It's more, I'm going to kill you because you'll be used as a tool by Ultimate Despair.
Which logically makes a hair more sense than the 0 that he had beforehand.
I mean, in fairness, if your go-to for anybody who stands in the way of what you see as hope is kill them, it makes perfect logical sense.
Yeah.
All right.
Like, he doesn't even kind of like the counter argument, which would be something like, but if you're the attacker and just killing everyone, then you'll just kill everyone and say that you're like hope at the end.
Yeah. All right. So, given what we've seen in these couple of episodes, does anyone have any revisions or new theories about who the attacker might be in future arc?
I'm looking at 2 people that I think might be it.
Okay.
But I want to reveal like my thought process on it after everyone else goes, because my thing's been kind of long-winded.
Okay. Well, as previously stated, I already know who the actual traitor is, so I'm not going to say anything. Shiv, do you have any thoughts or theories?
I'm still going with Tengen is suspicious as hell.
Okay.
Especially since we've seen he is now actually capable of killing people. And like even Kyoko's throwing shade at him, so.
Fair enough, fair enough. Krampus.
Now, whether or not getting impaled on rebar was part of his plan is entirely a separate issue.
Krampus, any thoughts? Krampus has apparently ceased to exist.
I want to say that I don't think the traitor is one of the people we've seen, for the sole reason of I don't like the thing that
I will tell you right now, it absolutely is.
It absolutely is. Okay.
The series is not pulling that level of bullshit. We have absolutely
Okay.
seen the traitor is one of the people involved in the killing game.
So I'm trying to think of who's strong enough to string out Great Gozu
Like
that.
just to like get that out there in advance to like, you know, forestall any bizarre outlandish theories of like, oh, it's actually like subterranean mole people, you know, whatever. It's one of the 16 people that started the killing game, basically.
Ah, okay.
It's fine if you don't have any specific thoughts at the moment, aside from that.
Yeah, I don't have any thoughts as to the moment.
All right, Vince, now that the character spoiler you knew of has been revealed, and I've also specified that they are not the attacker, do you have any thoughts or theories, or do you still want to recuse yourself?
There's no reason for me to recuse myself at this point. None of the other cast list people are really anything resembling a spoiler.
No.
Right now, only by process of elimination, I would actually go with Mitorei. Although they might be throwing a curveball, so who knows?
Okay, I could definitely see that theory, especially considering what was brought up last session. Part of Shiv's suspicion of Tengen, of like being surprised that Mitorei was there. He was not expecting Mitorei to be there. Shiv used that as suspicion on Tengen. I could see it easily being turned the other way, as like, you know, why the fuck did Mitorei show up here? And it turns out,
and he was kind of hesitant. Like he was the one who was hesitant when Kyoko just straight up asked, "What's your NG code?"
Yeah. So I could see a lot in that. All right, Hunter, your theories.
All right, so this is based primarily off of elimination. We know pretty much for a fact, not Makoto or Naegi. It's not Kyoko, not Asaki. We know it's not going to be any of those things. On the assumption that if they are dead, they aren't faking, we can eliminate Great Gozu, Daisuke Bandai, and Chisei Yukizome.
Just putting it out there in Danganronpa, that's a pretty strong assumption to make.
Yes, but I would like to think that they're not going to play the same trick twice, and we already got that in the first Danganronpa game.
I mean, I am still concerned that Chisa is involved in some way, shape, or form, because I'm still thinking there's a very good chance that she is a Despair due to the stuff that'll presumably show up in Despair, if that is the case.
Fair
because she
enough.
was, the homeroom teacher for the entire group of people who became Ultimate Despair.
I would say Gekugahara, based on what we had revealed in the 4th episode of your arc, but you have eliminated that as the actual attacker.
Yeah.
So that leaves us Tengon, Sakakura, Seiko, Izuyoi, Ruruka, Kizukura, and Mitorei. I don't think any of the 3 that we don't really give a shit about because their subplot isn't that important. I don't think it's any of them, simply because they're playing against each other as, you're the traitor, no, you're the traitor, no, you're the traitor. And honestly, any of them being the traitor just sounds stupid at that point.
Fair enough.
AOM being the traitor has sounded stupid pretty much from the start.
Yep. I'm sorry, one other name that I did not list as in that is Kyosuke Kata. I, however, have eliminated him because he is so
It'd be too
focused
fucking
on
obvious.
hope. Exactly.
Yeah, I could see that.
I have eliminated him as a possibility. So that leaves us, once again, Tengon, Sakakura, Kizukura, and Mitorei. I don't think it's Sakakura. I think he's just in love with violence, but is loyal to Kyosuke.
Okay.
I don't think it's Tengon, because I think with as many episodes as we have left to go, they can't have a point where someone is, or where they're asleep and the attacker does get to kill someone, as he is currently impaled on rebar.
Fair enough.
He is absolutely impaled on rebar, so...
So that leaves us with the 2 who I think it might. I think it's either Kizukura or Mitorei. Both of them have some oddities with them. For one, I don't remember who Kizukura was with during the last sleeping period. I don't remember him showing up next to any of the groups. So he was by himself.
He was not, as far as I know. Yeah, he was not in any of the groups, as far as I could tell.
And when he does show up with other people, it's always surprising to other people. So I think that's very suspicious for him. And then once again, the stuff that's been brought up for Mitorei. So I think it's either of those 2.
Kizukura is who?
The
The teacher, the scout.
The guy.
Oh,
the guy.
yeah.
No, he was not with anyone. That is true.
Yeah, the guy with the hat.
we
So it's
we
I only
either
know
of those 2.
Riverboat Gambler.
yeah.
Yeah.
His name has been replaced with numerous other things we refer to him as.
Yes,
I am particularly fond of Bargain Basement Johnny Depp lookalike.
pretty good one. But I don't want to walk over your game on that. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Don't
that's
use people's
it's either
actual
of those
names.
2. It's either of those 2 in my.
All right. Well, I think that's probably going to wrap it up here for us today for Sound Goblin Storytime presents Talkin'ronpa Session 2. Thank you all for joining us again here. We hope to see you again next week at the same time when we'll be covering Future Arc and Despair Arcs episodes 5 and 6. Meantime, we'll be back tomorrow at around noon Pacific, continuing on our multiplayer playthrough of Tales of Berseria. We will be starting at actually noon this time, since we won't have to do like 2.5 hours of technical troubleshooting and sound work, but we will get rolling with that. On Tuesday, we will be back with presumably going to be coming close to finishing up Prototype, do you guys think?
Yeah, I think we're getting close to the end here.
So possibly the last session of Prototype, at least coming close to that. We'll be back again Thursday evening. Still more Fate Tactics.
Yeah, we've got
Okay,
like
tactics.
1 or 2 sessions left.
All right, so coming towards the conclusion of that as well. But and then once again back here next Saturday with the next session of Talkin'ronpa. Thank you again for joining us. Once again, I've been your host Bograt.
I've been the Krampus.
And Shiv.
I've been Hunter Green.
And I'm Vincent.
Have a good one, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.